Hi everyone, this is your Superpower kid, Neva Recla, and today I'm so extremely excited for today's interview. We are talking about Be the Change, and I've made an impact and have changed other people's lives, but so many other people have changed my life, and two of those people are our guests today, Jill Chambers and Michael Peterson. We met at CEO Space International. They're both so extremely amazing and inspirational. Jill was a colonel in the Army and was in the Pentagon during 9/11, and Michael sings all around the world and performs for our troops who are serving for our country. So without further ado, will you help me welcome our amazing guests, Jill and Michael. Hi, guys.
Hi, Neva. That was so sweet.
Neva. Oh,
You're just a natural. My goodness, we're so happy to be here with you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have you guys on.
Thanks.
So, what are your guys' superpowers?
My superpower is this one that I adopted, actually. It's named Jill.
Oh.
Every good thing about me comes out of her.
Oh, that's very sweet.
No, she's such an inspiration to me. You know, you said the theme is Be the Change. And I would have to say that Jill exemplifies that. She has something she's focused on and is committed to. She doesn't talk about it. She doesn't go, "Hey, look at me, I'm doing it." You never even hardly see her sweat.
Oh,
she's like that kid in the commercial where the whole team gets punished because the one kid isn't sweating and the coach thinks nobody else is working hard. That was Jill, right?
They use good deodorant.
Well, she's an agent for change, but she just goes and does it. You know, she just exemplifies it. So I would say, you know, it's sort of a silly thing to say, but I would say having Jill in my life has enhanced my superpowers and challenged me to grow.
That's awesome.
Oh, well, that's very sweet. Thank you, honey.
Thank you. Good night.
Silly.
That's
superpowers.
Well, now that he's done all that nice stuff about me.
No, you don't have to say anything nice about
I know.
me. That's fine.
You know, I actually had a chance to talk with your mom a few weeks ago, and we talked about this superpowers. And it's such a good question for people to then reflect on how they feel about themselves and what they feel like they can bring to the world. You know, when I've thought about this before, it feels like the ability to actually calm my life down. And I know that might seem like a silly superpower, but the recognizing that the running and the striving and the grabbing and the reaching are all good things, but just having the idea of balance, being able to play and work and sleep and run and just do all of that, but all in good balance, good food, good friends. It's really nice to be able to think about all that and incorporate that in my life now.
Yeah. I'd like to add to that too.
Okay.
Years ago, there was a friend of ours who gave us an illustration that I'd never thought of my life in this light before. He said, so many people go through life as though they're sitting at a stoplight with their foot on the brake all the way to the floor and their other foot on the gas all the way to the floor. And he said, you know, it's like we're revved up all the time. We're revved up, even when we should be at rest. And I think that's part of what I think of when Jill says what she just shared, that is a superpower, is the ability to be in gear and be fully on point without having to be so wound up. It's not necessary. You don't have to have your adrenaline at full tilt in order to be effective and powerful. But it took some learning to recognize that.
I know.
But that gives you the ability to be calm in the face of stress. And I think that is a superpower. Not a lot of people are maximizing that.
No, it takes time unfortunately, we had to wait till we're this age to figure this out. So it's exciting for your younger listeners if they can start, at least think about that and reflect on that every now and then. I honestly get more work done now. And we're very, very busy than I did in the Pentagon, where we were extremely busy, but we were so ramped up. And sometimes it was hard to get things done because you're so ramped up thinking that that's how you had to be in order to get things done. It's not. We've learned.
So I'll give a more serious answer to the question you asked about my superpowers. I think it's tough sometimes to evaluate what your own superpowers are because you don't see yourself. Sometimes it's easier to think, well, what do other people say they recognize in me as a gift? Yeah. And then you come to see it maybe as a gift yourself.
Right.
And I would think creativity for me, the ability to catch a brand new idea and imagine, and I love the word imagine what the possibilities would be for that idea, whatever idea it is. It's something that I've nurtured for years and years, but I think it's also something that kind of came natural to me. Mm-hmm. And I used to take it for granted until I had a lot of people say to me that it wasn't so easy for them. So I guess maybe that's a superpower for me.
Yeah, that's a good superpower to have. And a lot of people, when they become adults, they'll take being creative for granted and sometimes say, oh, that's more of a childish thing. But then really that's such a gift to have because some people live their life in like black and white. And then when there's so many other colors surrounding them. And so.
That's right. It is a gift. I see him in this. I mean, have rarely seen adults be as creative as Michael. He can walk along and see a crack in the sidewalk. And the next thing you know, it's morphed into this beautiful design. And he's then thinking of a tagline to go along with this crack. And there's a whole advertising campaign that just happens in a minute. He can just do that.
Yeah. And it's exhausting if you're my partner.
Sometimes it's, hey, I have an idea. Hey, did you think about? Oh, wait, stop.
Well, I have that creativeness as well. And so when I see someone else who has that creativeness inside of them, and I can see it, and then they take it for granted, it's such an interesting thing to witness because I just want to be like, come on, be creative with me.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah. Yes, you do have a gift. That's fantastic.
Thank you. How did you guys meet? I'm sure our listeners would love to hear this.
Yeah, well, I was in the shadow of 9/11. I was really feeling a strong desire to make a contribution somehow, as so many people wanted to make a contribution. And so I had said to my agent if he would allow me the opportunity to serve soldiers and their families or military members and their families. If there was that opportunity, I wouldn't need to worry about getting paid. Just, let me know and I'll do it. So I was responding to an invitation that I had to do an event at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And it was that night that I met the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, and his assistant, executive officer, I guess they call him, asked for my contact information, and I gave it to him, sort of typical songwriter fashion. I gave it to him written on a napkin and with a pen, with a Sharpie, probably. Very very professional. And I gave it to this guy, not knowing if I would ever hear from him or what would come of it. And about a week later, or maybe 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from some guy at the Pentagon. He said it was the Pentagon. And at first I thought it was some friends of mine playing a trick on me, like, oh yeah, sure, you're calling me from the Pentagon, right? But it wasn't. It was a gentleman named Mike Anastasio, and he worked for Jill. So the XO for the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army had given my napkin with my phone number on it to her. Jill was the director of strategic communications for all of the Army at that point, which her job was, among other things, to help create new ways of sharing the Army message. And the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, her boss, 4-star general, gave her my contact information and said, hey, this guy's good for the Army. We should work with him. At which point I'll hand off to Jill.
And I said, what am I going to do with this? And I actually gave that information to a gentleman that I worked with and said, you call this guy. I don't know country music. I don't get why we have this. you take care of it. Well, the day came where we had invited Michael to come out to Washington, D.C. We actually wanted him to come to Fort Meade, where the Army Field Band was, because it was music and it seemed like that's the thing to do. So the morning that he was due to arrive, I'm still sitting back in Washington, D.C., so Fort Meade is about an hour away. And I thought, what if my boss asks me how this meeting goes with this Michael Peterson guy and I don't even show up for the meeting? So I hopped in my car and drove the hour all the way over to Fort Meade to meet Michael.
See, sometimes fear is a gift.
Well, that's true. So that, you know what, the best thing about actually meeting him for the first time is I saw him walk in to the building, and there was probably about 23 or 24 of our service members who were there, field band guys, so they were music guys, all lined up ready to meet Michael because they were all excited about Michael Peterson. And I watched from a distance that Michael just introduced himself to every single person, hello, Neva, hello, Tanya. He just all the way down the line, like 23 of them. And he asked specific questions like, Neva, where did you go to school? What are you studying? How do you like the Army? Just very specific questions. So it was about 7 hours later, after we, showed Michael around and we did some talking, he went back. And this was the trick. He went back to every single person that he had met, called them by their first name, and recalled a specific thing about that person. I have never seen anybody do that ever in my entire life, particularly with Pentagon people who come to the Pentagon because they just want money. They come and they introduce themselves.
Looking for contracts.
Hey, I've got a deal. Yeah. I've got a deal. And Michael was completely the opposite. He just wanted to know everybody. He wanted to know what everybody was up to. And I thought, now that's a different kind of fella. So that was our first meeting. And then, I don't know, 12 years later, we got married. She fell in love with me instantly. We did an awful lot of work together. We ended up going to Iraq and Afghanistan 11 times together.
So 9.
9 times together. Yeah. As battle buddies. And I learned that he was going to take good care of me and he could trust me to keep him out of trouble. And
Jill always had my back.
We just took really good care of each other. We were very, very good friends before we got married. And that made a huge difference in how we got together.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, thank
That's a really cool story.
We might seem to be on the surface, like people say, the cowboy and the colonel. How did that happen? They're such different worlds. But Jill and I have so much in common. We're very close in age. We grew up, listening to the same cultural things, music, TV shows, all that. So those things we have in common. But on top of that, Jill loves music. Jill loves sports. Jill's a very sort of balanced from a gender standpoint. She's very feminine, but she's also has a side of her that appreciates things that are maybe culturally, traditionally male things. So, and I feel like I'm the same way. Just sort of gender balanced, and so we just have so much in common, in spite of the different career paths that we took.
It just makes it so much fun, more fun now.
Yeah.
And she always,
really cool.
Yes, whatever I ask, like when I ask for a new truck or something, she always says,
No.
No, that's no. This is yes.
No.
Well, that's an amazing story. And I would love to keep talking with you guys more, but we actually have to take a quick break. Yep. Can you tell our listeners where they can go to find out more about you?
Yeah, they can find out more about Jill at this, THIS, Able Vet. This Able Vet. Sounds sort of like disabled vet, but it's thisablevet.com.
And MichaelPetersonMusicOnline.com. MichaelPetersonOnline.com.
Yeah.
Awesome. Definitely go check their websites out because they are such amazing people. So we will be right back after the break. We've been talking with Jill Chambers and Michael Peterson about Be the Change. We'll be right back.
Are you here to change the world? Do you talk about things like vibration, frequency, awakening, and consciousness? Are you pretty sure you have superpowers? The Superpower Net is unlike normal coaching programs and conscious communities. We provide training, intuitive guidance, peer-to-peer learning, intensive one-on-one coaching, and a high vibrational network of people just like you. When you join the net, you get 24/7 access to a collaborative group of people who support you as you master master your personal power and unlock your superpowers. If you're ready to use your superpowers to change the world, then join the Superpower Net today. Visit superpowerexperts.com/thenet to learn more.
Okay, we're back, and we've been talking with Jill Chambers and Michael Peterson about Be the Change.
Yeah.
So, we actually get to do funny FaceTime.
Okay.
So, basically, we are going to make our funniest faces in 3 seconds. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
That's a face.
It's awesome. No one has ever done that.
Oh, there you go.
That's awesome.
We take them with us everywhere we go. That's Presto and Changeo.
That's awesome.
And they have 3 kids. Uh-oh, oh no,
And Play-Doh.
and Play-Doh.
Those are interesting kids' names, but those are
They are.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, as most of my listeners know, I'm writing a book, but I don't want to talk about my book. I want to talk about your guys' book, and I actually have it right here called Little is Good.
Yeah.
So, can you explain to our listeners the background of why you chose to write this book?
Well, for me, it started
You started
with Jill. Jill is a petite human being. I mean, she's
It's a nice way of saying short.
well, she's tiny, and when she was a baby and a young child, she was petite for her age too. It's not like she was fully grown in 4th grade and then everybody caught up and passed.
Yeah.
She was always really petite, and I've often heard people say that little kids, when you're really little, everything is so big. You forget that when you're an adult, right? And so the children often deal with anxiety around everything being so big. Like a normal-sized dog will come up to you and it's a giant, right? So when you're eye to eye with the dog, the Cocker Spaniel, it's yeah. So so Jill, grew up, with some language that she adopted that she used to encourage herself and celebrate her gift of being small. And so I got to witness that in the Pentagon a couple of times early in our relationship, where she would have a big important meeting, and here comes the 100-pounder, I call her. Here comes the 100-pounder, like the woman in this culture of men. She weighs 100 pounds. Like, what could she ever do? She'd go to these meetings and she'd slay the dragon, and she'd come back and she'd be like, even though I'm tiny, I'm ferocious when provoked, that kind of like that attitude, right? And sometimes she'd put her hands on her hips and she'd say, "Little is good," and, like that, It's sort of a funny little thing. And I saw her do that, I don't know, maybe a dozen times. And one day she did it in her office, and after some big meetings she had, and I looked at her and I just said, "Okay, wait." She said, "What?" I said, "I have to tell you something I just saw in my mind."
Creativity.
She said, "What is that?" I said, "Well, I saw this little cartoon character, and she just slayed a giant, and she has her foot on his chest, and she thrusts one arm in the air, and she says, 'Little is good.'" And I said, "You know what? There should be a cartoon called that would be her name. The character's name is Little is Good. And it would be all these adventures that she has where she goes and does all these incredible things, even though she's little." And so that's kind of where it started. And so, fast forward, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, I kept bringing it up and she kept saying no. And I'd bring it up, she'd say no. And one day she said, "Well, you keep talking about this. When are we going to do something about it?" So I said, "Okay, let's do something about it." So I called my friend Guy Gilchrist. Guy is a world-renowned illustrator. Among other things, he was the co-creator of Muppet Babies with Jim Henson. And, he's illustrated 50 children's books and really knew what he was doing. I didn't know, really anything, first thing about it. So I called him and I said, "Hey, have a meeting with me." And I shared the idea with him. He liked the idea. And he said, "Well, let me meet Jill." So Jill came to a meeting with Guy and I. And Guy brought with him his big sketch pad. And he sat down very early in the meeting, and he kept looking at Jill. And he kept looking down at his sketch pad. And finally, he just picked up his sketch pad and he's looking at Jill. And he started to just draw a caricature of Jill. And then when he turned it around and showed us, it was the character that you see on the front of the book, if you could show your audience.
Oh, wow.
That was what he drew. And he said, little is good is Jill. It's Jill as a little girl, and these are her adventures. So we just decided that it would be fun to create a book that would encourage kindergartners to second graders, kind of that age group, about their superpower, which is being little, which is a superpower, but you might not think of it that way.
But if you read all the adventures, she's got superpowers, baby.
Yeah. So that was
awesome.
The whole story, I guess. But
Yeah,
I mean,
that's perfect. No, thank you.
was how it came about.
Yeah.
That's cool. See, I'm kind of the opposite. I'm a lot taller than most kids my age. And so I'll see some kids my age and they'll look up at me like I'm a giant.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, and so.
Okay, so one of our books we should do a book together. And the book would be 2 characters. One is Little is Good.
Okay.
And the other, her name is Big is Better. So Little is Good and Big is Better.
But they're best friends.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
They take care of each
We
other.
should do it.
Together, we have a book celebrating, and Big would help Little and Little would help Big. And together they would change the world.
Well, and also in the Little is Good book, there's a dog that follows her around everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We call that dog Tiny Dog, and that's our tiny dog, and that's Michael.
Yeah, I'm a dog.
Yeah.
See, that's what I get. She's a superhero with superpowers. I'm a dog.
But you're the cutest doggy.
Hey, dogs are as equal as superheroes in my book. So
Good.
There you go.
So it'd be fun for you to write a book about the all the benefits of being taller than
like on Halloween, you can reach over all those little kids.
Oh, look at
Right.
you. Yeah. Like that and all
Yeah.
that.
that'd be fun.
Hilarious.
It would. Yeah. So, what were you guys like as kids? You explained it a little bit, but what were your interests?
Oh, mine's so easy. As long as I was outdoors, I was happy. I just outdoors. Whatever you do, I never even hardly got in trouble, because the trouble would be I'd have to stay inside. Everything was outdoors, which is why I love playing all kinds of sports. And my dad was kind of my superhero in a way. So when he would come home from work, if I had everything done, my homework, whatever I was supposed to do, any chores, I could be outside and play with him until the lights came on, or we had to go to eat dinner and we'd be back outside. But I was
That's awesome.
playful and athletic. And what about you, Tiny Dog?
What was I like as a kid? Well, early childhood memories I have. I remember my grandma saying to me when I was about 6 or 7 that I had ESP. And I remember saying to her, "What's ESP?" And she said, extrasensory perception. Of course, I didn't even know how to spell those words. Never mind, I understood what it meant. But I think as I grew up, one of the things that I came to understand was that she recognized that I was a sensitive kid. I was a kid that was sensitive to things, not necessarily in the sense you might think of sensitive, like I was easily offended or things like that, but more that I just was sensitive to stuff around me.
In tune to things.
Yeah, I picked up on the energy and stuff. And so I think that for me as a kid, that probably people who knew me would say a thoughtful, kind, sensitive, creative kid.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's nice.
I'm kind of the same way. Like we'll go into a business conference and I'm like a sponge. Like I imagine a sponge and everyone around me is the water. And like I just absorb, this person over here is stressed and so I absorb that. This person over here is hungry, so I absorb that. And I'll absorb, I can't say that word. I will take in all these people's energies.
Yeah.
And then I have to go back to that person. But
Good.
I can kind of agree on that.
Oh, good for you. Good to know that to give that back and you don't take it on, but you recognize it.
Yeah.
That is wonderful.
How did you learn that distinction? To learn to not carry it with you like in a permanent fashion?
My parents.
Yeah, they recognize you did.
Yeah. because the best thing to do is like don't take it in, but don't throw it out on other people. And so, and like giving it back, it's like I almost imagine rejuvenating it and however I can, and then giving it back to the person, but not taking on anything else that may not have been positive.
That's so healthy. Good for you. No
Thank
wonder
you.
you're a healthy, happy young lady. I think that's great.
Thank you.
Good.
So, what is it like? I know you guys have changed many people's lives. What is it like living in that courage? How did you take that leap of faith to help other people?
That's a good question. You know, as when I explained how I was as a child, one of the other things I think, and I think Michael was like this too, is that when we saw conflict, and I'm saying we because you and I have talked about this, I'll just use but I kind of wanted to be in the middle as the mediator and say, no, wait, we can all work this out.
You're peacemaker.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I wanted peace around me. You're right, and it's not that's who I was, but that's how it made me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So getting older and then going, into college and getting a degree in public administration, human resources, I'm falling right back into helping people. That's what human resources. That's what you do. And now, then when I went into the Army, I went into the Adjutant General Corps, and that's all about personnel, and that's solving everybody's sometimes personal, but as well as personnel problems. So finding solutions to then see someone be happy and move on into a better behavior or a better life feels wonderful to me. I love helping when people want help.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
For me, probably like a lot of your viewers and listeners, my home life was had some trauma and adversity in my childhood, and coming through trauma and adversity of all different kinds. I won't name what mine was because everybody has their own. But coming through that gave me a great appreciation for the people that were there to help me through it.
Yeah.
And so I think when you have received great gifts from others, for me anyway, it felt so good to be helped by others that then I thought if I could do that for other people, that would be something that would feel good to do as well. So I think pretty early in my life, I began to be attracted to inspirational speakers and great pieces of literature that would talk about inspiration and motivation and things like that. So young in my life, I began to memorize and adopt those thoughts because I knew that I needed them in my life to encourage myself. So my helping others, I think, came out of my own brokenness, as opposed to me saying, hey, I have so much to give. I think I can give it to other people. It really came more out of being helped myself and then seeing how good that felt to me, and maybe I could help others the way I'd been helped.
That's right.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because I've met some people where the idea of like taking that step towards helping other people is really scary to them, and so they like back away into this dark corner, and then as they grow up more, they start to hide even more because they didn't take it on as a kid.
Right.
And that's why I've like the blessing of being able to learn this stuff as a kid, because that way when I'm older, I'll be able to teach so many other people.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. You're quite remarkable, and you have two wonderful parents, and that really helps. It really does.
Yeah, there's a lot of metaphors around the dynamic of what happens when you give, but I really particularly love the metaphor of a candle. If I take my candle and light yours, it never diminishes mine. It only spreads. And there's something really beautiful and powerful about that, and it really does work that way for the most part in life. When you need a smile, share one with somebody, and you'll get one yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Because the idea of helping someone, that's what brings joy to me. Yeah. But like and you look at it and it's almost like the idea of going back into a corner is almost even worse than stepping out into the light for a second, even though it might be a little scary, but being in the darkness would be so much scarier.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I do something on the show called Super Neva Questions.
Okay.
And basically what's going to happen is I'm going to ask you guys questions as fast as I can.
Okay.
And you'll answer them as fast as you can.
All right.
Kind of as a group or one at a time?
You can do one at a time.
Okay. So
Okay. What is your favorite color?
Blue.
What is your favorite animal?
Oh, I thought you one at a time, like being like switch. You mean switch back and forth?
Oh, yeah, we can do that.
Her and then me.
So, Michael, what is your favorite animal?
A giraffe.
If you could be a fairy or an elf, which would you be?
A fairy.
I'm going to ask this to both of you. If a kid is being bullied, what advice would you give them? Or someone?
Gosh, it really, for me, it depends on the situation. But so this is after the bullying?
Yeah.
Well, find a caring adult.
Yeah, just working on safety and security and helping this child with their confidence. Kind of things that you said too about getting to let go. But yeah, that's kind of situation dependent. But offering love and security is the first thing after something like that's happened.
You know, I would say too, I got bullied a little bit when I was a kid, 7th grade, 8th grade. And usually if I ever was bullied, it was when I was by myself. Like bullies, for whatever reason, never showed up when I was with other people. And I think in the world that we live in, you know, social media and phones and all of that, you know, if you are a young person and you're dealing with being bullied, and, you know, there's immediate things you want to do. You want to let adults who are caring adults know, number one, you have a problem. But sometimes people don't always take you seriously, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, you know, until the problem can be dealt with by an adult who steps in and takes care of the bully, helps the bully to learn a lesson, to find their own hurt and get help. There may be a gap. There may be a time, a week, a month, and maybe some time that passes before that can happen. So I would say, you know, in places where you know that the bullies are likely to be, try to equip yourself with always walking with a friend.
Yeah.
You know, because I think that tends to make bullies less bold.
Mm-hmm. I had a bully once where she was an angel around, like, her parents, my friends. But then when we got alone in a room for like 5 seconds, she would go off.
Oh my gosh.
It's so interesting that kids can do that. Like, they put on like a fake face.
Yeah.
And basically,
wow.
Oh, I'm being super nice, but then like the moment you turn around, they're not. And so
and nobody believes you when you they say, oh no, she's the nicest girl in the world.
Yeah.
Right? So I mean, sometimes there's this gap between, you know, your experience and you know, keeping it to yourself because you're afraid of causing more problems has never worked for me.
It's going to cause more problems when you hide it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And there's only one situation where she bullied me in front of people, and that did not really go well for her because she basically like showed her bad side to everyone.
Wow. Well,
I'll say this, you know, in defense of bullies, which is something I don't hear people talk much about. On my 55th birthday, Jill arranged for a birthday party for me at some friends of mine's house that I went to high school with. And they invited a lot of people that I had gone to school with. And I grew up in a town where most of the kids I knew from grade school all the way through high school. So they made a broad invitation to a number of people to come. And there were a couple of people who came to the party that night. It's my 55th birthday. And that night, I had a chance for the first time to hear a little bit about their childhood. And these couple of people were people that I would have considered bullies when I was in school.
Yeah.
And it made total sense to me when I heard it at 55 that these were young people who had terrible childhoods. Parents, alcoholics, abusive fathers. And so then you look at it a little differently. And I'm not saying that bullies should be allowed to bully, but I'm saying when you look back on it, sometimes you see that there's usually a reason why a young person is acting that way. Young people aren't born bullies.
Yeah.
Some stress in their life that they're afraid they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And so they're acting it out. So we can have compassion for everyone. The person who's being bullied and the person who's doing the bullying. We don't have to throw them away just because they're struggling to express themselves in a way that is positive and productive.
Yeah.
Exactly. I interviewed a woman once. Her name was Gabrielle Gray. And I asked her the same exact question. And she said, hurt people hurt people. And so that's because, like you said, bullies aren't born bullies.
Right.
There's always something going on in the background that they're afraid to share. And so they take it out on someone else. And then some people take it out on them again when they really don't know what could be happening 1,000 times worse than what they're giving off.
Exactly.
So, that was a good message.
Yeah.
So, we sadly have to wrap up.
Okay.
I wish we could talk all day, but can you remind our listeners where they can go to find out more about you both?
Yeah, they can find out about me at michaelpetersononline.com.
And thisablevet.com.
THIS.
Awesome.
THIS, this, because we're not disabled.
And
Book information
again,
there too.
awesome. And again, definitely go check out their websites because they are so amazing.
Yeah.
So, will you guys join me in the sign-off?
Sure.
Okay. Remember, kids, we all have superpowers, and we can change the world.
We're supposed to say that at the same time, right?
Okay. Is that what we say is we can change the world?
Yep. You ready?
Do it again. We're ready now.
We can change the world. Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
You want to? Yeah, I'm going to work on it. Okay, bye. My name's Chanjo anyway, right? Okay.
Goodbye, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neva. You make it a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.